What's up guys, welcome to today's video. Try and keep this one today short and sweet. Simply just a tune, just a car that I really wanted to show off to you guys. I figured you would all appreciate it. So this is a good mate of mine, Robbies R32, which is just finished. Very nice looking car. So today we've got just a stock RB25 DET. I believe it has head studs and a head gasket, but apart from that, it's just cams, 264 cams. So yeah, 264 with a Kinagawa GDX 3076 with a 0.7 housing on it on E85. So fairly simple setup, just a dedicated E85 today. Just thought I'd show off the car a bit and we'll see how the tune goes, because I know a lot of people that love RBs watch this channel, and I figured you'd be pretty interested in how this thing sort of responds with those 264 cams and this little turbo on E85. I think it'd be a really nice, fun little punchy street car. Similar sort of setup to what we did with Brad's R33 just out there, albeit this thing has just a little bit bigger turbo and cams to help it along a bit. So Robbie is sort of hoping for just over 400. At this stage I reckon that's definitely achievable. It's just going to be a matter of, with this setup, go until we run out of rear housing. So it's a stock bottom end. It's got a Haltech Elite 2000, so plenty of ECU there, lots of features. We've also got yet another power tune digital dash in here. Super clean car, very clean interior. Robbie's done extremely well with this build. Very nice. Yeah, we've got big Workmeister S1Ps, 11 inches wide on the rear. So yeah, very nice 32. So Robbie's actually got a fair few cool cars. So this is just his latest finished build. Anyway, let's get it in the dyno and see what we can get out of it. So it's actually got a leaky main seal, which we actually have to fix as well. Robbie wants us to fix it for him. But due to time constraints this week, being the week leading up to Matsuri, we're super busy. Robbie actually needs this for Matsuri, not because he's driving it, it's because he's driving his other car and he needs something else to get him to work on the Tuesday if he breaks the car that he's actually driving at Matsuri. So he wants this ready to drive for the week after. So because of time restraints for stuff we're getting done this week and other tunes we have later in the week, I'm going to tune it with the main seal leak at the moment, and then we'll try and fix the rear main seal after the tune later on in the week. But anyway, for now we'll see what we can get to. I just got to put some heat sleeving on some vac line and stuff around here on the hot side just to protect it a little bit. But yeah, much like Brad's, I believe what we're going to end up with this setup is we're going to run out of hot side. We're going to run out of housing there before anything else. Alrighty guys, so we've been ticking along. We had a few issues. So Robbie had just like a boost tee in this thing, an airflow boost tee. I tried plumbing it a few different ways. We tried a few different things, and we just could not get it to actually respond properly. We ended up just taking it out. I've just left a tee in the line, so it's literally just bleeding out of that tee. And that's allowing us to get about 15 PSI into this thing, but it really needs a Mac valve, is what it really needs. Particularly being like a Haltech Elite 2000, it's a very upmarket ECU with a lot of great features, you know, and Mac valve. In this day and age, I would say to anyone putting in any aftermarket ECU into a car that's buying a new ECU that's on the market at the moment, Mac valve all the time, always Mac valve. So much better having the ECU controlled boost. It is just a million times better than using dodgy old boost tees. So anyway, that's how I've left that. I talked to Robbie about that when he dropped the car off, and he knows. So he is planning on actually getting a a Mac valve put into it. It's just that I don't have the time to do it this week, and he needs the car just tuned so he can drive it for next week. So not only that, had a few problems with the ECU, which was actually fixed by a firmware update. So that's all sorted now, that's fine. The only other thing we've had is we've got an issue with this thing charging. It's not charging properly. It's really weird. Like it's not charging, but it's only charging at like 13.2 volts sort of thing, which is causing us some issues. It's causing us to run out of fuel pump right in the top end. It's not responding to any fuel inputs right at the top end. It's causing a few issues for us. It's also, I'm having trigger issues. Now, I'm not 100% sure if that's an issue with the CAS at the moment, or whether those issues are consequently from the charge issue, which would make sense to me. You know, if it's not charging properly, if it's not seeing proper voltage, if it's not operating, those triggers aren't operating in their proper voltage range, it's going to cause trigger issues. So I haven't been revving this thing over 7K for that issue of obviously trigger unhappy, as well as fuel pump unhappy over that sort of RPM. So we've ended up just pretty much just a little bit extra timing on the C85 at that 15 pound. We ended up at 360 wheel. I don't have that up on the screen at the moment, but so yeah, it's 360 wheel at 15 pound at the moment, which is pretty good results for that sort of amount of boosts. But I don't want to continue any more at the moment. One, because it's not happy at the moment with what it's doing. Secondly, is obviously it's going to have to come back to get finished. So when cars do this sort of thing, I try and not spend heaps of time on them, because it's time that it's wasted time essentially. Get the car to a point where it's happy, where Robbie can drive it. You know, it is charging enough that it can be driven. I wouldn't go flogging it. But you know, it's going to have to come back anyway, which means I'm going to have to spend more time on it then to finish the tune. So any extra time spent at the moment is almost sort of dead time sort of thing. So, because it may change once it's actually charging, you know. When you're actually charging and your injectors are actually getting proper voltage and they're operating at the proper dead times and stuff, it may change things slightly. Not change things enough that I'd be worried about it. Robbie driving it from here, the tune is obviously not that ragged edged, but change enough that it may need some more work when it comes back sort of thing. So that's where we're at with this thing. Hopefully we'll see it back pretty soon. Now I've got to fix the rear main. I've ordered a rear main, hopefully fix that during the week. Alright guys, so a little bit of a development on the 32. I've spoken to Robbie, the owner of it. We've decided not to rush it for Matsuri. He's going to sort out, he's got other cars, so he's going to sort out another car that he can drive for the week after if he does break the car he's driving at Matsuri. So, which is good, I'm glad, because I hate having cars leave here when I'm not 100% happy with them, and I really want to get to the bottom of what's going on with this thing and have it sorted and give it back to Robbie finished. So, got to order a Mac valve for it so we can get an actual Mac valve in it. We're going to chase down what the hell's going on with this voltage issue. Starting to think it actually could just be that the like this thing's got a really, really tiny battery in it. So they put like a tiny half-size battery in it. It's got a fair few cranking amps, which is fine. But you know, this car, we've got big BA thermos, 2 of them. So that's probably what, about 60 amps a draw. Got a big fuel pump, you know, electric dash. We've got cans, like we've got a lot of stuff drawing a lot of power here. So between that battery and the stock alternator, it could just be the fact that the alternator cannot keep up with the system. Or it could just be the fact that maybe the alternator charge-wise has been wired wrong or whatever, but it's just, we're gonna have to fault find and try and figure that out. Because we need to have that sorted so I can make sure that it's not a trigger issue. It's actually just a voltage issue. So I'm hoping once this voltage issue is sorted, we don't have any more misses on the trigger or anything like that. So anyway, pressure's off for this one. It'll get parked up in the corner for a little while I wait for some parts to get here. We've got a heap of other stuff to do this week for Matsuri, so this thing can now sort of take a back seat until next week after Matsuri. And we'll get into it and try and get it sorted and finished, and hopefully get our full amount of boost that we want to get into it and actually get it finished, and I can turn it a bit harder once I'm confident that it's not going to miss any counts and all that fun stuff. Alrighty guys, so a few quick tests. We have definitely confirmed that this alternator just simply is not enough to run this whole setup. You know, we've got BA thermo fans, yeah, everything I just explained anyway. So this thing's going to need an upgraded alternator. For those of you who don't already know, this is quite actually a common problem with RBs. You know, in stock form, an RB with, you know, fairly stock, low current draw fuel pump, without big thermos and all this other stuff, you know, without an electronic dash, everything else that comes with doing a car like this. They're a 70 amp alternator from stock, and that's enough to run the system. But when you've got all this extra stuff on the car, you really do need a lot more extra charge. That's just what my assumption is, because I'm no auto electrician or any electrician of any sort. So I don't actually understand a lot about current draw and that sort of thing. It's definitely one of my shortfallings when it comes to vehicles, is I don't know a lot about auto electrics. So either way, the testing we've done, it's obvious this alternator needs to be upgraded. Whether or not the size battery has anything to do with it, I'm not actually 100% sure, but I'm assuming obviously being a half-size battery doesn't particularly help the situation. So I'm going to put that to Robbie. So we'll go down the path probably of a LS1 alternator upgrade. We'll order a Mac valve. I've got to wire in triggers for the fans. So like this is all the stuff that the car came here. He was sort of rushing to try and get it tuned so he could drive it, but at this point it's like he'd driven it all the way out here, dropped it off to me. We may as well finish it. so that it's done and he gets it back and it's sorted. So, all right, guys, got the 32 up on the hoist. Now inspecting or trying to chase down this rear main leak, which, as we saw on the dyno the other day, is quite severe. We've had a bit of an investigation. We always like to investigate pretty thoroughly for these sorts of things, because just about the worst thing ever is when you go through the effort of like pulling a box out or something and you quickly realize that it's not a rear main and it's something else. That sucks. But you can see on the ear, it's actually got a RB factory gearbox mount. He actually did comment on this when he bought it in. He reckons he was really impressed with this. It just bolted straight in. Everything was perfect. So that's pretty cool. So if you need anything from RB factory, he does awesome R chassis and S chassis, and specifically what gets me going, R31 custom made parts, like really nice CNC zinc plated sort of really good parts, and they're all actually really well priced. So things like that, like as if you go wrong buying something like that, which literally just bolts up, rather than trying to chase down something that's OEM that's going to fit, that's going to cost about the same amount. So you can use the discount code LEPLABS on checkout to get 10% off for anything of his. I'll leave a link to his shop in the description. But yeah, his gear is really nice. But anyway, we're pretty sure that this is in fact a rear main having a geese. So I'm going to have to put it back down, start with the interior, and what we're going to try and do is pull the box to do the rear main without the box in, rather than try and pull the motor, because that's a lot more work. So we'll pull the box, and like I said, I'm hoping for a lot of you RB players at home, they have like an RB main plate, like most fairly newish engines have. But the thing is, the main seal main plate, it's doweled onto the block and it's actually incorporated into the sump seal. So to get it off the block without you've got to disturb the sump, and it's an absolute pain. So I've got a new rear main seal there. I'm hoping that we can get this box out, get the rear main seal out of the plate without disturbing the plate and without having to disturb any of the seals, well, the plate seals and the sump to the block, and then just insert the new one, hopefully knock it in, and hopefully she's all good. But obviously we won't know until we get the box out exactly what we're working with as far as why this is leaking in the first place. So because of the way this mounts onto the gearbox, we're going to actually have to remove the entire dump pipe, which is a bit of a pain. I'm hoping it can just fit up through there. I'm hoping that's not too hard to remove. And then tail shaft, which shouldn't be too hard. Gearbox mount, bellows and bolts, in she comes. Hopefully it's that simple. So they've also made it so that the wideband is actually, like the plug for the wideband is through the firewall on the inside, and they've actually siliconed that up, which makes this extremely difficult. Yeah, this is going to be a real pain. So got to get that out somehow. It's just going to have to probably end up twisting up the wires. That's about all we can really do with it. Yeah, but hopefully we can get that dump straight down out there without having to remove the gate and stuff. We'll have a look. If I take the V-band off at the other end of the dump and just loosen this V-band, hopefully we can just twist it and turn it out, and hopefully that'll give us enough clearance on the mount on the gearbox so I can get the gearbox out. So guys, I don't point these things out to pick at people's builds or anything. Like, this car's actually built extremely well considering it was Robbie's first build. The only thing, like, I put these out so that you guys can like learn what we look at as far as doing a build, as far as just trying to think ahead about serviceability and how easy things are to get at and work with. And generally, you see this sort of thing on like a first build, and then I guarantee you by the next time Robbie builds a car, things will be totally different. So it's always a learning curve. Everything's always a learning curve, and you continuously always just get better the more you do it. That's all it is. So yeah, so there's a few things here that it's going to be a bit of a challenge for us to work around, but we, hopefully we can figure it out and get it done in a timely fashion. Alrighty, so we've got the box out. You'll notice they've put this together without the dowel for the bell housing, so I'm gonna have to find one of them before this can go back together, because that's a big no-no. So anyway, I'll get the clutch off, get this plate off, and have a look at what our rear main situation looks like. Alright, so the plan worked. Rex managed to get the seal out. So we're all good, we don't have to disturb any of these mating surfaces, which is the ideal scenario. So this is the main seal that came out of it. I don't think it's been replaced anytime recently. And you can see it's just filthy, like just heaps of dirt and crud in there. So yeah, that's why it wouldn't have been sealing. So chuck in a freshie. Should hopefully solve our issues. Hopefully that's the only place it's leaking from. And put it all back together. We do have a dowel down in one of our spare blocks, so we'll chuck that in so that we can actually get it back together now, and we'll order another one to replace that. Alright, you dowly boy.
So I've cleaned that up as best I can, and we'll just use that.
Sweet. Good stuff. We'll have to give this clutch and flywheel a good clean up because they've had a bit of oil on them now. That's alright, I'll clean up. Alrighty, we're all back together. All reassembled. So that's one very big job on this car completed today. So I just about to hit the key and it's not gonna leak at all. And it's gonna be bloody perfect. Righto, so it appears our main seal leak is fixed. We also found the sandwich plate that Robbie's using for his oil filter. He had just a pressure sender screwed into one of the 1/8 MBT bungs on it, which was super loose. So we tightened that up heaps, like as in wound it in heaps, but it still wasn't really getting that tight. So it's as far as I was comfortable to keep winding it in, but it seems to have stopped that leak as well. I believe it's a sender for his oil pressure, one of those ones in the center there. So it seems to have slowed that leak up heaps as well, so we'll see how that goes on the dyno and stuff now, but hopefully that's all our oil leaks sorted, which is a nice big step forward. So next thing is to run some wires for a Mac valve, which we've got over there, and some triggers for the fans, because at the moment you just got both fan triggers here. So I'm going to run some new wires from the ECU so we can have both fans triggered from the ECU, as well as a Mac valve so we have some actual ECU controlled boost. We've got a 3-quart Mac valve, and the gate does have some a port on the top, so as we saw on the dyno, we could only get so much boost out of this thing, so it may be one of those cars where we actually need to plumb the Mac valve into the top side of the gate to get some more boost happening to get it to where Robbie wants it to be. So we'll see how we go. Like we know that the housing size is very small, so we'll just see how we go with this thing. But that's a nice big leap forward. Keep on going with this thing tomorrow. We're still waiting on our alternator and alternator kit, so can't get it back on the dyno yet anyway. So alright guys, we're back on with the 32. Do some more work on this today. We've got our order here from Haltech. This is our new Haltech Mac valve. So this is going to control boost with the ECU. Now today's Friday. I was hoping that today we would have our alternator, which I've ordered as well. That's coming from ProFlow, but it still hasn't arrived, which means we probably won't be able to get this car done this week, which is a shame. But regardless, I'll make whatever progress I can on it today. Alright, so here's a rough wiring thing just from laying it down in the engine bay. So all this is going to be up in this corner near the battery. That's going to be orange fan trigger, green fan trigger. White is actually power to the Mac valve. I've had to use white because the roll of our red 22 gauge has gone walkabout. I don't know where it is, so white it is. So those go around there to the hole in the firewall where the rest of the wiring comes out, which is there. So then you got your black, orange, green go inside to the ECU. And on this side you got your black and white, which is the power to the Mac valve and then the trigger to the Mac valve. So pretty simple little setup. So I'll just get some braid and stuff on this and make it all look nice and tidy. So this is pretty much the final product except for some terminations, but that's our Mac valve plug there, and I just got to try and get that through the firewall so I can put some ECU pins on that end and try and figure out what we're going to do with this end when it's in the car. Honestly, pretty proud of my wiring efforts lately. I'm actually getting pretty good at it, which is kind of annoying because it's something I always hated, wiring. But I found that when you actually have all the right materials and the right gear to do it, it's relatively not that bad. Especially when you're doing something like this where you're doing something completely from start to finish of your own. You're not trying to use someone else's half-done crap. It's actually quite enjoyable to do. It's very fulfilling when you get it right and you get like a nice little loom like that. So all these firewall plugs have already been filled with silicon, but I mean, worst case is I'll just have to pierce it again, and if Robbie wants to when he gets the car back, he can refill it with silicon. Is going to be the worst case. So I've put the Mac valve there. It's a nice little threaded boss there, ready for it. So Mac valve there, nice and out of the way. Plumb all that back to around there, and yeah, get this loom in here. Ta-da! Runs down there, along with that, up into there, which actually got through pretty well. And that runs along the back there, across there, down, along there, under the reg, then up here, under the fuse box, and boom. Alright, we've done it. So, I just need to clean up that down there a little bit, because this is an Elite 2000, but it's not a new loom, it's a patch loom for the Elite 2000. So all of the wires in the plug are already terminated to the other end of the patch loom. So I've just pulled them out, the ones we don't need, that are now allocated for our 2 fans and our MAC valve for our boost control. So everything seems to be working fine. So we're all good. Now we just wait for our alternator. Once our alternator's here, we're whacked on and we're ready to hit the dyno again. All right, everyone, rejoice. We've received our alternator for the R32. So this is just a Pro Flow replacement LS1 140 amp alternator. About 300 bucks from memory. We've never used these before, but you know, they're a fair bit cheaper than the actual rebuilt genuine units. So hopefully it works out pretty good. We'll find out. All I've done is I've already removed the 6 rib pulley and put on our new 4 rib pulley from RB boost stock, boost stock there. So this is his LS1 alternator kit, and the rest of this hardware is actually to mount it to the car, and then we should be right to go. So to get the pulley off, choose an impact gun, something pretty strong, hold the pulley under the nut, pretty simple. And the new one goes on, and Bob's Johnny, we're ready to go. Alright, we'll get rid of this pesky 70 amp alternator, get it replaced. Alright, so you'd never guess it, but the actual RB25 alternator plugs straight into the LS1 alternator, which just never happens. That's crazy. But from what I can find online, the actual positive and charge wires are the wrong way around for the ILS alternator on the RB25 plug. So we're just de-pinning the plug to swap the wires around, and then it should just literally bolt straight in. Bob's Johnny. Easy as. Holy crap, I didn't expect this to be this easy. Very nice, very cool, and good. Better. Alright, as this battery gets some charge, this just keeps coming up. Hell yeah! So from running it on the dyno, with the alternator that couldn't keep up with the charge, and running the fans and everything on the dyno, it sort of just drains that little battery. So we haven't charged it again yet, so we'll just let this sort of charge it up. As it's charging, it keeps coming up and up, so should be sweet, should be good. So this is ready to hit the dyno again. So we'll get it ready on the dyno today, and we'll re-dyno it tomorrow. Try and get some more boost in with that MAC valve. Hopefully that trigger issue's gone with the voltage being consistent. Should be good. And this car will then be done and ready to go out the door. Hopefully we can crack the big 400. All right, so we've just gone to start the car this morning, see if it would start on its own. You know, after letting it run yesterday and actually letting it get some good charge from that good alternator. And it is was completely drained. Like, we checked the battery of the multimeter, it was 3 volts. So usually that's indicative of us having the charge and sense-wise, like the wrong way around, which you saw us do just before, repinning that plug. I had a quick chat to our boy Sam there at Widebody Wiring, my brain's trust as far as auto electrics go, because as you guys know, we are not auto electrics, we just do what we can. He seems to think that the LS1 alternator pinout is exactly the same as the RB25, and we shouldn't have had to repin the plug. So it would appear that us repinning the plug has actually made it the wrong way around, and it's drained itself overnight. So we're just going to quickly repin that plug now, and hopefully we're all right after that, and hopefully we're all good. So it means I'm an idiot, but it also means that doing this LS1 alternator swap is actually easier than we made it out to be. Even easier. So how good's that? All right, guys, so just had a quick little session just in steady state, just keeping an eye on our voltages, see what everything's doing. Between swapping those pins around, everything's sweet, that's great. But I am finding it is not charging as well as it should be. It's still, you know, with both fans on, we're still seeing like 12.9 volts. I've done some fault finding with the multimeter. You know, at the alternator post with fans on, we're still getting like 13.8. But at the battery, it's dropping down to like 12.7, 12.8 with both fans on. So it would appear that we need to upgrade the charge wire. Look at the charge wire in the stock loom is really, it's not that great. We'll upgrade that. I've got some 35 mil squared around here somewhere. It's going to be pretty ugly for me to do at the moment, but at least it'll get it done and it'll prove that that is the problem. But yeah, it would appear that the stock charge wire in this loom is just not sufficient enough to cater for this much voltage. So we'll have to upgrade that. So it sort of makes the upgrade a little bit harder, but anyway, it is what it is. We've got to get the thing running right. The thing is that there's no point in me trying to keep going with a low voltage because I'm pretty sure that is the issue we're having with this trigger. So need to fix that first.
Alright, so this is what I've conjured up. Just a big piece of 35mm squared battery cable.
It's massively overkill for this, but it's all we've got at the moment, and it's proving a point. So when Robbie gets the car back, if he wants to tidy it up a bit, he can go for it. 25mm squared would be plenty for that. Doesn't need to be that big. That's like 35mm squared and double sheathed, so that's why it's so fat and big, but it did the trick. So now we're charging at 13.7. which is right where we want to be. So that's awesome, that's fixed our problem, which means we're back on our way. Then the issue is, in the time that it took me to do that, it started storming, raining and stuff. So as a lot of you guys who's been around the channel for a little while know, our power draw here is very touchy. It's very off and on. It's very, very unreliable when it's this sort of weather. When there's a lot of static and rain and stuff, the power often just goes on and off, in and out intermittently. And on a dyno, when you're at full tilt, they'll load it up doing a power run, that's the last thing you really want to experience. So we're not sure if it might damage the dyno if something like that happens. So our rule is that we don't dyno when the weather's like this, when it's overcast and stormy, but in case something like that was to happen. So I'm going to wait till tomorrow now, or at least wait until the storm passes. We'll see what happens, but I'm not going to get it finished off yet. But at least we're finally at the bottom of this issue. It's finally ready to go. We've got charge, we're good to go. Once again, with any modification like this, I will certainly be recommending for Robbie, once he gets the car back, to take this to an auto electrician and have what I've done here just at least looked at, if not done better. I always recommend that to people because I'm not qualified to do this sort of thing. So at the very least, it's just got our charge done so that I can continue on with the tune without having any trigger issues, hopefully. That's the main aim of the game. That's all I want to achieve with that. But yeah, as soon as he gets, I'll be recommending to Robbie to take it to an auto electric to get it looked at. Boys and girls, so our new alternator is working a treat. This thing is going along fine. However, it didn't fix the intermittent issues we're having with the trigger, which means that there must be something up with this CAS. So it's not real bad, it's only intermittent. It's not happening all the time, but I'm still not confident revving this thing any harder than 7,000 RPM, which is okay, because the other problem we're facing at the moment is that up around that 7,000 RPM, we're starting to drop fuel pressure. So I'm pretty sure he set it to Walbro 460, which means there should be plenty of pump. So my prediction will be that the wiring needs to be upgraded to run the pump effectively. So we're running out of fuel at the top end. We're still having some intermittent CAS issues. So for both those reasons and the fact that it is still stock bottom end, I don't want to be revving this thing super hard anyway. But yeah, certainly don't want to be revving any harder than that 7,000 RPM. So anyway, regardless, even with those issues, we have managed to squeeze 380 horsepower out of this thing on 18 pound. So we managed to get it up to 18 pound before we started running into issues with fuel. So that's as far as I want to push this thing as it sits. The other thing that is a little bit concerning is that Robbie actually doesn't know whether this motor has head studs in it or not, or whether it's just head bolts. So not 100% sure on that. I'm going to go ahead and assume that it's got head studs in it, but Robbie bought this motor, never opened it, chucked it in. That's how it is. So he doesn't know a lot about it. Completely stock. He's planning on doing a built motor later on down the track. He just wants this thing street driving. He was hoping for 400, but we're just not going to get there in this, guys, the way it is at the moment. It needs, obviously, that fuel pump looked at, and it definitely needs a trigger system looked at as well, and sorted out so that it's a bit better. But 380 is still pretty good. That's obviously plenty to party. It's a nice little street car. That's going to be a lot of fun. But that's unfortunately where we've had to pull it up. So anyway guys, that's a wrap on the R32. Remember, if you're doing this alternator upgrade, don't be an idiot like me and switch the pins in the plug. They're actually fine, they just plug straight in. So I'm gonna close this shed up and get out of the wind. But yeah, that's the 32, 380 wheel horsepower for now. Give it back to Robbie, it's fine for him to daily around. He was talking to me the other night, he needs a new daily for a while. He was itching to get this thing back because he's got a Sora that he drove at Matsuri, which he now needs to do a lot of work to. That's his daily at the moment. So he's trying to get this thing back, so he's got another daily so he can pull his Sora off the road and fix what he's got to fix there. So anyway, this thing's an immaculate car, it's really nice. I think Robbie's going to be pretty happy. But you've got to do it here to the cold start tomorrow morning, and then it's pretty much ready for him to collect and go have some fun. So hopefully we'll see it back here fairly soon. Maybe try and squeeze some more power out of it. To my surprise, I reckon this turbo's actually got a fair bit left in it. It's actually responded quite well, considering the issues we had the other day. To be fair, starting the day, I didn't expect much more out of this turbo, but intake air temps are still good. We've still got plenty more compressor wheel there. As far as turbine, we'll just find out as we keep adding duty cycle, I suppose, but we need to sort out that fueling first. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. As always, we appreciate it. Smash like, smash subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace out, see you, bye.